welcome back. Still on Sunrise this Saturday morning, and we're moving on to another issue we'd like to have a look at, and we've got guests in the house to discuss this with us. We're looking at the Alpha Beach surge. The Alpha Beach surge. Well, since 2010, the people of this community have been asking government to help save their shoreline from coastal erosion. Environmentalists and residents have been warning that shipwrecks which dotted the coastline are gateway to disaster. And over the years, residents of the communities around the Lekki Beach in Etiosa local government area in Lagos State have come to accept the yearly multiple ocean surges in the area. So this morning, we've got a couple of people to come in and discuss. And first, from my left, I will introduce somebody who's been our guest on this program a few times. He's an environmentalist who's got clear voice and clear ideas on what we need to do.
Environmental warrior.
Environmental warrior.
Well, right now he's a very sad environmental warrior.
Well, Desmond Majekodimi, welcome to Sunrise this morning.
Thank you so much. I wish it was a bright morning, but at least I had a home to wake up into. There are hundreds of Nigerian citizens, good Nigerians, in that place, Ogunfa village, just by the beach there, who have no home to wake up to. Yes, because the home has been taken over by the water. From one side, the floods of the rain. From the other side, the ocean surge that just went right across.
Wiping out their
because there's no beachfront. I think we're used to ocean surge in Lagos, but the ocean surge will come and then it'll be dissipated by maybe 100 or 150 meters of beachfront with coconut trees. In this case, the 200 meters of beachfront with coconut trees that used to be in front of that village protecting it has been totally eroded, wiped away since the last 2 years.
Okay, well, I guess Alera has described you.
For now.
Alera has described
that he's a warrior.
Yes, she's described you as a warrior. So we'll look at the battles that we have to fight to be able to win the war. But just before we do that, I'll also introduce a journalist who's also got an NGO, Mr. Tunde Akimbade. Welcome to Sunrise this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Good. Now, I know that Desmond's got a lot of ideas, and you've got your hands on the pulse of what's happening around Okunfa and around Etiosa local government and the shoreline. What is the state of our shoreline at the moment? Because we're looking at a Lagos state where we want to create a mega city.
Oh dear.
It is a scary scenario, but you know what makes it even more scary? Is that, thank God that at least the people at the helm of affairs in Lagos are not one of these decrepit criminals that other states had been so unfortunate to host as their chief executives. I believe one of them is currently serving a jail term in London, and he has other colleagues in other states. You can be very sure, thank God that Lagos State is not being run by one of these decrepit, confirmed criminals. Thank God we have responsible people at the helm of affairs in Lagos. But this thing is gargantuan, and it is maybe beyond their capacity, because do you know that 2 years ago, when the first shipwreck came, I, as a representative of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, on whose council I sit, did a demonstration, and we sort of brought the attention of government to the reality that a shipwreck on a coast will cause erosion. Thanks to the media, and I think even this program, we spoke about it here, and government responded. And Lagos State government sent representatives down there, and they said something will be done, something will be done.
Didn't the president come?
Eventually, 2 years ago, this thing started. The erosion continued and continued. In fact, I used it to celebrate my birthday 2 years ago. And then last year, I said, another birthday has come around. The whole year has gone by.
Nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened. So by that time now, I got in touch with some of my colleagues in the industry, and there's a certain gentleman who is right here with us. I call him the pen is mightier than the sword. Tunde Akingbade, who's one of our ace journalists. And Tunde came down and he wrote about it, and again we publicized. And the governor of Lagos State, he came again, and then, and this is what scares me, the president of Nigeria came to this location over 10 months ago. And he saw the erosion, he saw what was going on, and he gave an instruction. He said that these ships should be removed immediately, 10 months ago. And there's an agency of government who are the receivers of shipwrecks. This is their mandate. And they put an advert out in one of the newspapers about 8 months ago, tendering for the contract.
To remove the ships.
To remove the ships. Until today, the ships are there. And as a result of moving all the beachfront, so that there's no buffer, no natural buffer again, what was a normal, fairly mild ocean surge now became a violent wave of destruction that just inundated this village and went in there and just swamped the place. A life was lost. Luckily, only one life was lost, but people lost their livelihood and their homes. And what scares me is that our president can give an instruction and then somebody
ignores
it entirely. And he's in charge of
and the agencies, which agencies were there when the president visited and they were given instruction on the day? Which agencies were supposed to have taken action?
The agencies know themselves. and they're dangerous people. So I won't actually mention their name, but I will tell you their mandate is they are the receivers of shipwrecks. And there's only one agency in the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is so mandated. And the president said, get rid of this shipwreck. We know who they are. They know themselves. And I hope they are wondering how they can justify their position now. I wonder, I hope. Because under normal circumstances, these people would immediately resign or be sent packing. How can you allow this to happen?
Okay. Let me come to the journalist. Now, Mr. Akingbade, you are a journalist.
Yeah.
If you were not there when the president gave the instruction, you heard about it.
Yeah.
Have you found out why his instruction has not been carried out?
I have done so, but I know some things had been done, but it's not to be released now because it's part of an ongoing investigation that I've been doing. Yeah.
Okay.
But, besides that,
some people have let us sit up.
The pen is mighty and so on.
At this point, we shouldn't let the cat out of the bag.
Okay.
Because, like Desmond said earlier on, it's a sensitive matter. And besides that, the shipwreck, which he mentioned, is a major issue along Okun Afa. And experts over the years have found that Nigeria's coastline has the fastest erosion rates in the world. And they've documented all this. But the problem we have in Nigeria is we seem to rely more on foreign experts to come and do things that local experts know better. Because they know the terrain.
Like moving
and
ships.
They also live here. But again, removal of ships is costlier. It's costly to remove ships. But I know the president gave an order. And somehow the order was carried out in some way. But
the ship is still there.
The ship is still there. Not only that particular ship, another ship had also come again that is wrecked along that place. So when we had the torrential rain on July 1st, last Sunday, there's also another problem which was caused by the construction work going on behind the village. And there's a major problem in this area, especially Lagos. Most lands have been sand-filled over the years. And experts had warned, it's a disaster foretold. I remember 20 years ago, the one-time director of Federal Environmental Protection Agency warned about sand-filling in Lagos State. But what do we get today? The government is sand-filling, individuals are sand-filling. So, in Okun Afa, this week when I went there, fortunately, I couldn't have gone there because I have a very flat car. But
without the warrior.
Yeah, the warrior came with his jeep. And even the jeep of the warrior couldn't even enter. We had to use a Hummer, which was given by a very good Samaritan in the community. It was that Hummer. At the stage, it was so hazardous, it was an hazardous terrain that I was saying, what kind of story am I looking for? To be swept inside the ocean. That's even by the way. But I found out that there used to be a river. There was a sink to the water that came from the ocean with the wetland that is being sand-filled by another corporate giant in Nigeria. So that river had been sand-filled by some individuals, and they've built houses on it. So it's like the water from the sea is trying to find its level. Also the river is trying to say, look, I belong here. I was the landlord in this area, and I'm coming back to claim my ownership of the land. And the water came. And so these are the issues and the problems that we have in Okun-Afam.
Okay.
So what can be done now to protect these people?
Well, one thing has already been done. The community, that blockage that Tunde was talking about, when the community appealed to this major, huge corporate entity that could have snapped their fingers and solved the problem which they shouldn't have caused in the first place, the community now intervened, brought diggers and heavy machinery and dug up a channel which was almost about 300 meters long. That's how much had been blocked. They dug a very nice channel, and then the water that had been trapped in the community because of the rain and the ocean surge now found a way to remove and to go out. So community action, which was actually a little bit on the illegal side because they had to trespass on these people's property. But the community said, look, we don't care. Whatever happens, let it happen. We're going to do what needs to be done. This corporate entity have refused to do it, so we're going to do it. So that's one of the things.
But
good
this
drainage.
corporate entity said that they carried out a proper environmental impact assessment before they started their project.
Oh, wow. So what we need to know is who signed this so-called proper environmental impact assessment. Who signed an environmental assessment and approved an environmental impact assessment that would have blocked drainage to the village? This water couldn't go anywhere. Other parts of Lagos now, after these awful floods, the water is going. At least it's finding some way to find its way out. Even though there was no way. That water was just
Static.
there. Static. And yet they had an EIA that she said was signed. Who signed that EIA? Why did you sign the EIA? Why are you still there to sign more EIAs? These are the sort of questions that we need to ask.
And again, I need to also add that if that EIA was properly done, if it was scientifically and properly conducted, using all kinds of experts to look into it, there won't be the problem that they're having today. If there was a thorough, well-done environmental impact assessment, then there won't be that problem.
They said that it was conducted and it was achieved.
Conducted by people.
It was achieved after a successful public hearing where all the relevant stakeholders were present, including the surrounding communities, and all issues raised were properly discussed and explained.
Oh, but this now brings into question the authenticity of other EIAs.
Yes.
Because this was obviously totally bogus. I mean, even a primary school student will be able to tell you, they've dug the Sansan, is now almost 1 foot high of Sansan, it's filled the whole place, and water will come here. Where will the water go?
Exactly.
So this is totally bogus.
And
so how many other EIAs?
There are so many bogus EIAs out there.
It's scary. This is scary now. This frightens me.
And again, when you say public hearing, sometimes you could just unpick. I've seen cases as an environment journalist over the years, where during public hearing, the corporate giants
unpick them, give them a
just
few thousand
unpick
naira,
and look for a makeshift hotel somewhere and say we've done public hearing. Is that a public hearing?
Okay,
When
let's move away
stakeholders are not
from-
consulted.
Let's move away from the EIAs and the public hearing. Let's look at the issue of ongoing construction work along Lekki-Epe Expressway. What impact is that likely to have on the issue of erosion?
Well, if I can come in, if you're talking of the road itself, this toll road that's been done there, that's one of the major sort of reconstructions. I must say that despite it being quite controversial, they are adopting best practices, and for the first time, the right size of drainages and culverts and so on have been introduced into this road. I think possibly to protect
All along the way?
They've actually had to redo a lot of the original drainages that were there. I traverse that place on a regular basis. I have a farm after Aja where I have my conservation
So you pay the
farm.
toll regularly?
I pay the toll regularly, but I'm probably one of the few people who pays it happily because I knew what that road had disintegrated to. That was a good road many years back, and it had actually disintegrated. So that road is being done well. As for other developments, again, it's this thing that people like Tunde has been fighting against for so many years now. He's a top environmental journalist. this thing of just going into an ecosystem and imposing yourself as a man, as humankind, on that ecosystem without thinking what is that ecosystem meant to do. We're building Lekki on a wetland. It's a mangrove swamp, and it has a purpose. It has a purpose of drainage. It has a purpose of aquatic flora and fauna breeding. And you don't just go in there and cover this with sand and expect you will not get a reaction. Definitely, you will get reaction. The first reaction you'll get is that flood water has nowhere to go, and it'll come into your house, inundate your foundation, and your house will probably collapse. So one hopes that we're doing the right type of EIAs in all these development areas that are going along Lekki, and making sure we work in harmony with nature, putting the right type of culverts, the right type of drainage systems, so we don't mess up the natural systems that are there.
Okay. So if we then look at what the Lagos State Ministry of Environment is doing, Mr. Akinbade, do you think enough is being done?
At the top, they are trying, but every facet of the Nigerian life now, we shouldn't shy away from the issue of corruption, which is a huge problem everywhere. And so when the top is trying, and you have full soldiers who are highly corrupt, then whatever the top is doing might not show at all. And that you could find also in the problem that occurred in Okonafa. Not only Okonafa, in other areas. How will anybody give approval for the dredging of a wetland or sand filling of a wetland? That houses or sprawling factories should be constructed under bridges. You have that all over Lagos. And you also have it that, like I shared with my brother Desmond a couple of days ago, the topography of Nigeria has been altered by human beings. The rivers that flow into Lagos, along their courses, the Ogun River, not far away from here, have gone across the forest monitoring, the courses of Ogun River, and I found sand filling, dredging, mining of sand deep inside the forest. A lot of things go under the cover of forest between Lagos and Ibadan Expressway. And the topography has been changed. So what you have is that the river, when there is any rainfall, it overflows its banks and also flow into neighboring communities. So it's not only the problem of Lagos State Ministry of Environment, it's also the problem of the Ogun State Ministry of Environment. There should be synergy between the two states. One is having the drains or rivers, their sources from their states, and they are flowing down into Lagos. But when you you block these river courses, you block the wetlands, you sand fill, you build houses, you give people because the man is your cousin or your friend, you give them CFO and they build houses. What you have is the kind of flood that happened. In fact, about 20 years ago, 25 years ago in Lagos, the problem had been there. The wetland that entered Lagos, along the 5-kilometer wetland that entered Lagos, the last long bridge had been sand filled by some individuals, by the neighboring state. And the place was flooded. They were warned not to carry out this thing without a proper EIA 20 years ago. But, it went on. So,
and the government has done nothing about it.
The government was behind it. That was why I said earlier on, it's ignorance among some government officials. The government started the project. They started all the facilities along the river courses. So when individuals now see such a thing, they now feel, well, if the government can do it, then we can also begin to sand fill. It must be okay.
So an element of lawlessness.
Exactly. General lawlessness all over the place.
Gross lawlessness. And unfortunately, the governments at that time were not even accountable to the people. These were governments that preferred to use the bullet rather than the ballot. So, who's going to fight against a government that is, using bullets instead of ballots? And that's, a lot of that problem was inherited by some of these incumbent governors now. The government of Lagos State has inherited a problem that has been accumulating for years and years and years.
And that was why when it got to Okonafa, it was probably, speechless. Because the problem was overwhelming. He wouldn't know that
Has the governor been to Okwafa?
He was there.
Not recently, yeah, he was there the last time.
Yes, he was there.
the last time.
This was 10 months ago.
The 10 months ago time. I think this time he's been so busy going to a lot of the other flooded areas in Lagos that he probably hasn't had.
He's trying his best.
So
But
what's the fate of these people now?
It is a terrible fate for the simple reason that they're not just dealing with the flood waters from the rains, which will come. And we now know that
And we know that more is coming.
more is coming, and this year, next year, we now know that rainfall patterns are a lot worse. They've been increased because of climate change.
Yeah.
So, major cities and responsible governments are now adapting themselves to be able to deal with these extra deluges that are coming. So that area, they've got to deal with the rains, but at the same time, they've got to deal with this ocean when there's no frontage to protect them from the ocean. It's a gargantuan problem. And as Tunde mentioned, ironically, you know what it would have cost to solve that problem? When the ship first comes aground, and before it has been embedded into the sand, it costs about 2 to 3 million naira to get a big tugboat with big chains, and you pull the ship back out into the sea. If you leave it 1 or 2 or 3 days, then it now gets embedded. It becomes a whole different ballgame. It costs several hundred million to remove the ship. But now we're talking of probably some billions of naira to have to build sea walls, to have to do dredging, to do all sorts of things. So, and if the ocean, if we get a really bad sea surge, that is a high tide with strong winds offshore and maybe some big storm off some other people's coast, if we happen to get that, and we get a real ocean surge, it could compromise the whole of that area. And we're talking of highbrow houses all along Lekki. We're talking of kilometers and kilometers because it's a low-lying area.
Yes.
So it could end up costing us billions.
The risk element is there. The risk is there.
Yeah.
Would you say that the people in government are ignorant of this risk, or they've just chosen to not take action?
Well, again, as Tunde said, the head is correct. Our president came, a very busy schedule, came all the way to that place, to come and say, hey, let's do something. But these underlings decided, you're just the president. Who are you? We can do what we want to do. So unfortunately, he's caught up in that same old scenarios where his employees are not taking him seriously enough. But I think it's now time to start flexing the muscles and start saying, even from the top, enough is enough. If you can't do, and we're seeing some indications of that. I mean, a few people have been sacked
Where?
now.
In government?
In federal government. Yeah, we're seeing some indications. And I think we need to have a lot more of that. No more sacred cows. Why? Because people's lives are at stake. You should have seen the mothers carrying their baby on that day. It's only the Nigerian factor. Nigerians are some of the hardiest people.
we are very
and we're always resilient. And we put a sense of humor. There was one person carrying what was obviously all their load on their head and the mattress, and he would just say, well, you don't do, I'm going back to my village, I'm tired of this Lagos, and he's smiling, Nigerians, we're great people, and we deserve great leaders that are commensurate with our greatness.
Now, has the local government come in to alleviate the
At the 11th hour, he finally came yesterday.
After about 96 hours, in fact, the villagers were so unhappy.
Yes,
they said so many things that couldn't be put on camera.
unprintable?
Yes, they were unprintable. They said they have not even felt the presence of their local people. The only guy that I found was the councillor.
The councillor was always there. And
he was always there. He has always been there. Well, other people,
Any kind of succor given to them?
No, nothing at all. None of the agencies, none of the emergency agencies have been there at all. And if you see the pictures, it was horrendous. The village was just evacuating itself.
That was a particular place I got to, and I mean, everybody had disappeared.
They're gone.
And they suddenly turned into environmental refugees. And what I found standing were just 2 goats on a table.
2 goats.
2 goats. And I'm sure those goats have not eaten for about 2 days.
Because they won't want to enter that salt water, and somebody probably eat the goats soon anyway, No, it was horrendous. It was. Now the irony is that these were not squatters. This Okwafa has been there probably before Lagos was named Lagos. In fact, the original name of Lagos apparently was Lagos, Portuguese. They've been there for a long time, so it's their community. They've lived there. They're not squatters, nothing. And they have a huge beachfront.
Original inhabitants, the autochthonal inhabitants in that area.
Absolutely.
And when we got there, found that their shrines, are gone.
Yes.
And the irony of it is that they have a Yemoja shrine, which is the sea goddess. The shrine is also gone into the sea, and the Elegba shrine is gone. Their clinic, which the multinational is claiming that they renovated, maybe unknown to them, the clinic had gone for about a year ago. There's no clinic in the community.
Yeah. The shrines,
it's
clinics,
not
everything washed away.
Not functional or
Yes.
doesn't exist.
It had
It's
been-
been
so-
swept.
been
Almost
destroyed.
half of the structure has been swept away by the sea surge.
Ironically, though, one of the one church that is there is still standing, even though the shrine got washed away. I don't know if that's symbolic or
It
something.
is symbolic.
Aha.
It is symbolic.
They claim it.
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
Okay.
But they say water no get enemy, So the thing where they make water vex now, we should be very, very
It's very well
careful.
to take over the landlord ownership of the land from the
Well, of
water.
course, you
Be-
must
before
also
we wrap
appreciate the
up-
power of water.
Yes.
It is as life-giving as it is life-threatening.
Yes.
Depending
Don't,
on,
right. Don't mess around. Don't
No, you
mess
don't
around,
mess around with water.
Respect it.
Well, the state has to wake up now and do something for this community and all the communities around the beaches. If erosion is causing so much palaver, shipwrecks,
Yes.
these people can't do anything on their own.
Do what needs to
They're
be
all
done.
helpless.
Yes, and it was so sad that, because last year we actually saw a synergy that was beautiful to behold. We saw the governor of the state, from one party, and we saw our president coming together with one voice and saying, hey, let's do something. So we hope that a similar synergy will come and, they'll transcend all these party boundaries and political differences and just do something for the citizens of this great republic.
For humanity's sake.
Absolutely.
I also like to add quickly the issue of gender in this crisis. The old are the most vulnerable. They were held up during the surge. They were trapped and they couldn't move. There are also handicapped people. I've seen lame children in that community. There should be humanity in tackling this disaster.
Yes, where are the emergency agencies? Why weren't they there immediately? Why is it other countries that can do all that kind of thing? I hear when they had a similar problem in Kenya, they intervened, even by helicopter. The Kenyans don't have two heads. We have farm. Why should we be allowing these other countries to make us embarrassed? We refuse to continue to be embarrassed in our father's land. We refuse. This is a great country, and we're citizens of the great Republic of Nigeria, and we deserve better.
Yeah. And I guess often the question is, I can see Alera going like, yes. Coming
on,
from
sister.
the
Well said, Desmond. Well said, Desmond. I said that
Coming
earlier
from
today. We're the
yes.
giant of Africa. Let
Yes.
us come
Yes.
out and do things that giants do. Nigeria, rise up to
That's
your
it.
role.
That's it. Take your giant strides and
Exactly.
lead the world. Even we have all the resources. We have everything that's capable, from intellectual resources down to physical resources, down to manpower.
Financial. Yes, we have everything.
So leadership, and realize that don't take this leadership thing too lightly. Whatsoever a man soweth, so surely God is not mocked. So surely shall he reap. As a leader, you're sowing something into the lives of your people. You're the father of your people. And if you relegate this responsibility, if you don't live up to it, you will surely live to regret it.
Yeah.
Okay, one other angle that we've not explored is when we look at what the government, both local and state, as well as the federal government, ought to be doing and is not getting done. We can also go international as well. In terms of what the international community can do, Millennium Development Goal agencies across the shore outside of Nigeria that would normally look at our environment and say they want to help, because if there is a serious problem here, it could affect other communities outside of Nigeria. Are we exploring international help with this?
Yeah, we are. I think Tunde might be able to say something about
I
that
was
as well.
able to. I was in Geneva last year, in Switzerland, on disaster risk reduction. I was the only journalist, and Nema was there. It was a huge UN conference with the World Bank, and I know that these agencies are doing a lot and also interacting with Nigerian local agencies, national agencies, in doing things on disaster risk reduction. But the problem is, like I said, when people are largely ignorant along the line, there will always be a problem. For example, the local government is the closest to the people, and when the local government is expected to take the bull by the horn and take certain decisions and carry out certain duties, and they shy away from it, you get this kind of massive problem that the state is confronted with, that the federal is also confronted with. But I am aware that a lot of donor agencies, international organizations, even embassies, will not relate with individuals. They will only relate
Is it
with
that government
Organizations.
agencies?
government agencies. They will only relate directly with government, who should also get feedback and relationship with its own local community. But in our own case in Nigeria, you discover that the local governments are largely ignorant. And what you see mayors in other countries doing, you don't get it in amongst Nigerian local government officials. You don't get it.
Yeah.
They are largely ignorant. Put up a proposal to any of them and say, look, this is the idea we have. These are other things that are being done in other countries by other mayors in other cities. They'll just be looking at you as if, because they are interested in revenue generation. How much money do we make
Out of it.
How much money do we collect from market women? How much taxes will the people at Okunafa pay?
So our problem goes beyond that of environment. It goes as deep as level
It's
of
a problem of
education.
governance.
Governance, leadership.
I was at the UNFC's conference, both in Durban in South Africa, and that was last year, and also in Cancun in Mexico. The issue, again, bothered on governance. These donor agencies clearly put it that, look, there has to be democracy before they can fund certain governments. And two, they have to see good governance. It has been an issue under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change for years now, because they are not happy with the corruption level in certain countries. And you can see, Nigeria, for example, is being ranked as one of the 10 failed states. And so when the problem of governance is there, it will be difficult to relate directly or even release funds to certain countries.
And that's why we just have to insist on good governance. And the ones that are trying to be good, like Lagos State, and Lagos is being replicated in other places across the party divide. I've been to Akwa Ibom State. I've been to Cross River State. I haven't been to Rivers. I hear there's some good things going on there. And I believe that one of the other states in the north, so there are a few individuals now who are trying to do that. And if they're doing well, we need to raise them up. We need to support them. And we need to insist that they have the right type of infrastructure in terms of personnel in place, and query those who are not doing the right thing. And especially at the local government level, because that's where it all happens.
Yes.
It's at that mayoral level. It's at that community level. And possibly we do need some sort of restructuring of the whole local government scenario vis-a-vis state, vis-a-vis federal, so that states will now be, local government will now be dealing directly with the federal and not be so subjective to the state. I think there's a lot of issues there.
Okay, final word then. We'll have to take your final
Exactly,
word
your
because
last
we have
word.
to run. So what will be your final word?
Before my final word, I just want to share an open secret
We
quickly.
don't have time, I beg your pardon.
Okay. We should take the bull by the horn, get environmentally educated, and get people with sound mind to do things in certain, especially in the local government. We don't have to continue to wait for local governments who will be building houses on dump sites or on wetlands. These are the things that causes problems for the country.
Okay. From
Desmond?
you, Desmond?
Power belongs to the people, and the people's voice is the word of God. Express your voice. Seize your power. It's in our hands. Let's do it.
Okay, on that note, we will have to wrap up this segment of the show. Thank you very much, Desmond Majakodumi, environmental warrior, as Alera calls him. And thank you very much. We'll be looking to have you again on the show because we know that this issue is not going to go away. It's not going to disappear very quickly. If 10 months ago, the president had said something should happen and it still hasn't, well, it gives cause for concern. Thank you, Desmond. And then, of course, we must say thank you, Tunde Akinbade,
Thank you very
journalist and one who's also a budding environmental warrior.
Thank you very much.
Environmental evangelist. For
Evangelist
now.
for now.
Which is where he
Yes.
graduated from. Thank you for coming,
you very much.
gentlemen.
Thank you.